Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns.
Hello, and welcome to Keto Life Support. This is Kim Howerton with episode number 134. Today's episode is titled, Throwing in the Towel. Okay, so throwing in the towel, what do I mean? What am I not doing anymore? What's happening? So in a previous episode, I think it might be last episode, I shared, what my general holiday plan is in terms of, being in a very mild cut. And it was, super mild. And in between me recording that podcast and this podcast, life got really stressful. Not like my diet was hard and that was too stressful. Literally, like life got really stressful. A lot of stuff came up. Everything's fine. Everybody's fine. It's just life, right? And life got hectic in a way that I said, you know what? I'm going back to maintenance. Just going back to maintenance. And mindset really matters here. So why was I so quick within a couple of days of stress in my life being above the level at which I find tolerable? I said, no, I'm going to have to be at maintenance at least this week. That's the way it's going to have to be. And some people might say, oh, why are you quitting? Why are you giving up? You can't just give up every time something gets hard. And I just want to say that's the mean girl and she can shut it. Because while it is true, you can't give up just because something gets hard. You have to take all of your life into account when looking at dieting or trying to lose body fat or trying to change a bodily goal, right? So there are times when I'm in a cut trying to lose body fat that I feel very challenged by that. Those are the times to push through or to learn a lesson, right? There's often in those challenging moments a lesson to learn. But that's when the thing I'm doing is challenging for me. That's when the stress is coming from the diet or the cut. There's something to learn about myself there. There might be an adjustment to the cut that needs to happen, or there just needs to be an expansion of my capacity to do challenging things. But I am a firm believer that you have to take the sum total of all the stresses in your life together. And we only have so much capacity for hard. And we only have so much capacity, I should say, for stress. And one of the things that I have to look at always is if I'm in a period where I'm doing a cut, my stress level has to be below level X. We all have sort of a mid stress level above which it's like, this is not great. And below which we're like, this is fine. I'm okay. Right. Life is good. And there's gradations through there. And for me, and for everybody, I should say, being in a cut is an additional stress. Even, stresses lead to good things, like graduate school leads to good things, learning something new leads to good things, right? But they add stress to your life. And so if my stress level goes above my, no, not good level, I know anything optional in terms of stress gets taken out of my bucket, right? So let's say things I can't control stress, I'm already at capacity. I have to say, okay, what stressful things do I have in my life right now that I can remove? Maybe it's a course I'm taking where I can, push out a date or a deadline where it's like, it's optional, right? It's just something I'm doing for my growth and it's optional. I might say, hey, I'm going to take a week off from that so I can concentrate on this other thing. But for me, if I'm in a cut, that's a real easy one. When my life stress goes above a certain level, I say, hey, this is probably not the best time to be engaging in this cut because now it's amplifying my stress level. Some of you might then wonder if I'm advocating comfort eating or binge eating as a comfort in response to stressful times. And I would say absolutely not. So this is why it's important to know the difference between sane maintenance intake and eat whatever you want binge life. I simply am bringing my food intake to a level where I am very properly nourished. I'm in a range where I'm not going to gain or lose. I'm just going to fluctuate. And I will say when I'm in maintenance, my fluctuations are a little bigger than when I'm in a cut, but that's just water weight fluctuations, not gaining or losing body fat. It takes that stressful thing out. Even if like it doesn't feel extremely stressful, just like, yeah, I'm gonna, anything I can drop, I am, right? It's like if you're evacuating your train car, you can't take your bag with you. You got to drop everything you can when there's a time of extreme stress or even mildly extreme. What's mildly extreme? Like moderate stress? Anyway, whenever I go above my tolerable level, I'll just say whatever that looks like. It's like, now time to hit release on some extra baggage. And so I hit that this week and I said, yep, okay, just going back to maintenance. I'm still tracking what I'm eating. I'm still eating within my appropriate caloric range. I'm making sure I'm getting enough protein, making sure I'm well nourished. I'm planning my meals. The thing that has changed is that my intake of mostly fat has gone up because my protein intake is pretty good all the time. It has gone up so that now I'm in my maintenance range, which improves my hormonal status, which improves my mental capabilities, improves my sleep. All these things can improve when you're in a better range. Now, I was in a very mild deficit, so I don't think these things were very out of range, but it's just one more thing to bring it back to center. And I don't consider this a failure or quitting even. I'm adjusting so that I have a sane life. And if all the things resolve at the end of the week that I hope they will, I'll go back into my cut. But for me, part of the reason that I've been able to maintain my over 100-pound weight loss and maintain my sanity and not feel like I'm at risk ever of sliding all the way back up to my top weight, it's sliding or jumping or I don't know, but I don't feel at risk of that because I employ strategies like anytime I go above my stress limit, I'm going back to maintenance. And in maintenance, it is much easier for me to not have random food thoughts. So here's part of the reason I do this. It's not just because I like more food, which I do, and it makes life nice. And it's nice to have a few more treats and, all that kind of stuff. But when I'm in a deficit, I'm always slightly more vulnerable to intrusive food thoughts, right? I have a history of compulsive overeating. I have a history of comfort eating. And when I'm in a cut, I have more of those thoughts like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could have a XYZ, or, oh, I'd love a this, that, the other thing. Whether those things are like within the range of foods I tend to eat or not, I know they're not in my current budget, right? And when I go to maintenance, I have a lot less of those thoughts. One, I have more room, so I can include some treats. I can include some of those types of things. But I'm actually on a much more stable platform when I'm in maintenance because I'm never super hungry in maintenance, right? I might have a sea of food and think, well, that would be nice, but I'm not like hungry for it. So it's easy for me to say no. When I'm in a cut, sometimes I'm hungry, and that reduces my capacity. And so when I'm super stressed out, when life's getting me down, when things are chaotic, that further reduces my resistance, reduces my ability to make as positive choices in my life. And so when I bring myself up to maintenance, when all the stress is happening, I'm just less vulnerable to a binge or eating things that I don't want to be eating, right? It means that I can actually stick to my plan better than if I were trying to restrict more, because I don't have the capacity when I'm stressed out to be as rigorous. So it's not that I can't stick to it. It's that it causes me additional challenges on top of new challenges with the old challenges. And I'm just more and more and more of like a stress layer cake. And I don't have to be. It's not required. Life is long. The half a pound I might lose this week being in a cut versus at maintenance is not worth it to me right now. It's worth it to me to feel a little more stable, a little less stressed out, to have to make fewer hard choices and have to have a little less discipline in a time when I'm stretched to my limit. So I'm just sharing what's going on with me right now with you guys because you're my friends and we talk. But I hope that this sharing might help you understand a little bit more about how to treat yourself when you need to make an adjustment because some curveballs got thrown into your life and you want to get more stable rather than less stable in those places. And so, I've thrown in the towel on the cut for at least this week, and I'm staying open to the idea that it might be through the new year. And I'm aware of the fact that if I start January weighing 2 to 3 more pounds than I thought I would, but weighing exactly what I do right now, that's still a win because I'm still down 100 pounds. And we shouldn't confuse the short skirmish for the long war, right? Sometimes you have to re-strategize when things aren't going your way. Doesn't mean you're a quitter. It means you're good at strategy because you understand that you're trying to win at life. You're not just trying to win this week. So I just hoped that would help you and get a little vulnerable and share a little bit about some of the choices that I've decided to make this week. And I hope you have a good week, and I hope I do too. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm thrilled that you're part of the Keto fam. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.